February 12th, 1984. This is Joe Todd, an interview with Mrs. Mary Jane Hunter. See, they came from Nebraska in what year?
Tell you everything about that, and Uncle Lloyd, I'm thinking you're going to run your machine down waiting for me. Laying that, I remember that. But the year they came in, trying to remember pictures and dates and everything, and I can't.
She's ready.
Oh, is she ready? Okay, then that'll be better.
Okay.
I was trying to answer some of his questions. He already got me stopped on them.
Yeah. They came to the town of Lockridge?
Lockridge.
Where's that?
Well, it isn't there anymore. There's nothing there. It was a pretty good little railroad town.
Is that in Oklahoma?
Mm-hmm. You know where Cashion is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it was about 6 or 8 miles this side of Cashion.
And they came by covered wagon?
Mm-hmm. I guess the kids walked most of the way, and
Does she remember most of the trip?
she knows all about it.
Good.
How they put the tent up every night and all that stuff.
And her father, be your grandfather, made the land run?
No, they didn't. They bought the ground
They bought the ground, okay.
when after the opening.
Good. Okay.
My father was here during the land run, but he was, I think, too young to run in it, or maybe it might have been in jail. I don't know. He was kind of rough in his younger days. That's why I was trying to remember some of your dates, but she'll remember them.
Yeah.
Her mind is real good.
Good, good. Mrs. Hunter, where were you born? Where were you born?
Nebraska,
Nebraska.
Stella, Nebraska.
And when's your birthday?
19th of December,
What year were you born?
1884.
Who was your father?
Mr. Walters, Elijah Walters.
And who was your mother?
Margaret,
What was her maiden name?
Walters.
Was that her name before she was married?
That's my name before I was married.
Okay. What was your mother's maiden name?
Maxwell,
Maxwell. What kind of work did your father do?
farmer.
What year did you come to Oklahoma?
I was 4 years old. That'd make it what?
That'd be 89?
In the 89er.
Can you tell me about the trip coming down to Oklahoma?
Oh, yes, I remember it well.
Tell me about it.
We come with a wagon, a covered wagon. There was 7 of us, father and mother and the children, and that we had a good time. And the folks brought apple butter and things like that to eat, you know. We just had a wonderful time. And I well remember it.
How long did it take you to come down?
Well, I don't know just how long it did. But Father was never in a hurry to rush us around, you know. He always took his time and
Did you live in a tent when you came down?
certainly did.
Tell me about that.
Well, we lived in a tent, or slept in a tent, had our beds in there, you know, and Mother cooked outside with a skeleton lid, and well, I can't think of only just a good time.
Mm-hmm. How big was the tent?
4 years old,
No, how big was the tent?
about 14, I think, by 14.
Did you put the tent up every night?
Yes, sir.
What kind of chores did you do on the trip down here?
Yeah.
What kind of chores did you have to do on the trip to
Oh,
Oklahoma?
I didn't do nothing but play. And of course, folks took care of the team. We had 2 cows. Father had them tied behind the wagon, so we never had to go fast, you know. We just took our time, and I don't know just how long it took us, but we had a good time while I was on the road.
Mm-hmm. Where did you settle in Oklahoma?
Settle. You know where Cashion is?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, we were close to Cashion, but it was called Downs then, the old Downs. Then when the railroad was built through there, they named it Cashion, and that's where we lived.
Mm-hmm. Did your father buy the place?
No, we homesteaded.
You homesteaded.
Huh.
Was that after the run?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it was after the run, but he wasn't a sooner.
Did he make the run?
No,
Mm-hmm.
he waited till after the run, and he come in. Him and 4 more fellows from where we lived in Nebraska.
What kind of house did your father build in the homestead?
Well, 5-room, 2-story, 2 rooms upstairs and 2 down, and the kitchen.
Was it a frame house?
Huh.
How big was the homestead?
160.
After you got to Oklahoma, what kind of chores did you have to do in the homestead?
Well, I didn't have very many chores to do, 'cause they all was older than I was, you know. But they was milking the cows and taking care of everything. Wasn't long till we had pigs and chickens and things like that to look after, take care of. Of course, the older ones had that all to do.
Did you help with the laundry?
No,
No.
no, Mother washed on the board. The 2 older girls helped her.
When did you start to school?
Up at Cashion, but it was called Banner School.
Was it a country school? How many students were in the school?
Well, about 25.
What was your teacher's name?
Well, one of them was Laura Whistler, and I think we had a man teacher. He was Martin. His name was Martin, but I don't know what his first name was. So I never went but to that one school.
How long did you go to school? How many years?
Well, I went till I finished the 5th grade. That was called high school.
What'd you do after school?
Got married.
Where'd you meet your husband?
There at home.
What was his name?
Hunter. John Hunter.
Do you remember Statehood Day?
Statehood. Yes.
Tell me about that day.
Well, I don't hardly know. I pretty near told you everything I knowed about statehood, you know.
Was there a big celebration?
Well, no. They didn't celebrate then like they do now. But we had a good time, all of us.
What kind of crops did your father raise on the farm?
Wheat.
Did you ever help him in the wheat fields?
No, he didn't want us to.
Tell me about harvest time.
Oh, harvest time was a big time. Neighbors come in, help.
How many people were in the harvest crew?
Oh, that's about 25. 25 men. We had them all to cook for, or the women did, you know.
What was your job in harvest time?
Playing, I guess.
How long did it take to harvest the wheat?
Well, it started in June, about a month, you know, to get it all cleared up.
How many men would actually cut the wheat and how many ran the thresher?
Well, I don't know just exactly. I guess it would take about about 20 to run the binder and cut the wheat and shock it.
Do you remember what the price of wheat was back then?
I think it was a dollar and something. Dollar and a quarter a bushel, I think. Wasn't very much. Wasn't like it is now.
Who did you sell the wheat to?
Well, at Cashion, at the mill, and let's see, Comstock was one of the men that owned the.
Did they grind the wheat there at
No.
Cashion?
No,
Did they have the big elevators like they have today?
They had big elevators, but they're not like they are today.
Mm-hmm. Tell me some more about your childhood on the farm before you were married.
They were,
Tell me some more about your childhood on the farm before you were married.
well, we just had a good time, and there was 7 of us, and we had plenty of time for play and done the work too that Father and Mother wanted us to do.
What kind of games did you play?
Oh, drop the handkerchief. Some of a lot of them silly kind of names.
What kind of mischief did you get into?
I won't tell you that
Why not?
because I didn't get into any.
Mm-hmm. How come your father came to Oklahoma?
Well, we lived in Nebraska on a rented farm, and he wanted a home of his own. That's how come him to come to Nebraska.
Did he come down to make the run?
Huh?
Did he want to make the run of '89?
Did he what?
Did he come down to make the land run?
Yeah, he come down, but he didn't aim to be in the run.
Okay.
See, they was come in after the run was made, and there was lots of land that wasn't taken up. So there was 4 of them, took up homesteads.
Mm-hmm. Ever live in a sod house?
So, yes, 2 of them.
What's it like to live in a sod house?
All right, only leaked.
It leaked.
And the kids would say, put the tub out, Mama, it's leaking on us.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a good time.
Was that in Nebraska or Oklahoma?
Oklahoma.
How long did you live in that sod house?
Well, I couldn't say. Long enough we built a other home.
Mm-hmm. How big was the sod house?
Oh, I just had 2 rooms.
Ever live in a dugout?
No.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember the Spanish-American War?
No, I don't.
That was in '88 and '89 when he went to war with Spain.
Well, I guess I heard them talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know much about it.
Mm-hmm. Ever meet any of the territorial governors?
Not that I know of.
Mm-hmm. What year did you get married?
1901.
Where were you married?
Guthrie.
Guthrie? What was Guthrie like in 1901?
Well, it was just a town. See, it was the capital first, and the Oklahoma City took it away, the capital away from Guthrie.
Mm-hmm.
Guthrie was the capital at first, and it was just a pretty lively town.
Can you describe the main street of Guthrie?
Do I?
Can you describe the main street in Guthrie? What
Well,
it looked like?
well, it was just plain like it is, and they had sidewalks, and it was just plain buildings.
Mm-hmm. How big was Guthrie?
Well, it wasn't very big, and there was no colored people there.
Mm-hmm. Did you do your shopping in Guthrie?
Yeah.
What stores did you shop at?
Father and Mother did. I don't remember the name.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember what brand of wagon your father had?
Wagon.
Because they had the Studebaker wagons and
Studebaker. Believe it was a Studebaker.
a Studebaker. Mm-hmm. What kind of maintenance did your father have to do on the wagon? What kind of maintenance did your father do on the wagon? How'd he keep it up?
Oh, it plowed, planted wheat,
Mm-hmm. What kind of plow did your father have? A walking plow?
walking plow.
Did you ever plow?
Yes, but I plowed with a riding plow
A riding plow.
after they got the riding plows, you know. We didn't have we just had the walking plow first. Then they got the riding plow. And I've plowed with 4 horses.
How much could you plow in one day with a riding plow?
Well, I don't know, just say about 10 acres.
Mm-hmm. You ever grow cotton? No.
No, wheat. And if there was a little low place on Father's farm, he planted his corn after years, you know, after he got started.
Mm-hmm. When you were married, where did you live?
Up at Cashion,
You and your husband lived in Cashion? What kind of house did you live in?
well, it was kind of out at the edge of Cashion. We lived in a kind of a, it wasn't a sod house, but it was, they hauled logs and laid up so high for, you know, so we could stand in it, and put a wagon sheet for a roof and horse blankets for the doors. And I guess that's about all I know.
Mm-hmm.
But it was good days.
What kind of work did your husband do?
Farmed.
Was he a farmer also? Did your husband go to the war in World War
No.
One?
No, he never went.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember the war?
World War One,
Mm-hmm.
some. None of my folks had to go, so I didn't think so much about it, you know.
Tell me about Armistice Day, the day the war ended.
Oh, they had a big time.
Tell me about it.
We was in Lockridge, little town called Lockridge. They had give away dishes and things, and just had a little picnic.
That's good.
They're so glad.
Mm-hmm. How big was Lockridge?
Oh, it was just a little place.
Mm-hmm. Was it a railroad town?
Well, they built a road that went through Lockridge.
Mm-hmm. Is Lockridge still there?
No,
No, it's gone.
it's gone, every building.
Where was Lockridge?
It was right on the corner of Canadian County. Let's see, Lockridge, Logan, Canadian. Well, how'd you spell Canadian?
How do you spell it? It starts with a C.
There's four letters in it. Lockridge.
Oh, Canadian is what? Canadian.
Well, there was four counties right at the corner of Lockridge.
Would it be Logan and Kingfisher?
Yeah.
Canadian? Maybe Oklahoma County, I'm not sure.
It might have been.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's four counties, and that's what Lockridge was named after.
The four counties?
Mm-hmm. Do you work with Hunter's daughter?
Yes, ma'am, I work with Janice. I think it's Logan, Oklahoma, Canadian, and Kingfisher.
That's about
That's
it.
where Lock comes from, the four counties. Okay. Tell me some more about Armistice Day.
Well, I don't know anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I just danced and jumped around.
What's your favorite childhood memory?
All of it.
All of it.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't trade my childhood memory for nothing.
What kind of man was your father? What was he like?
He's a little Dutchman.
Mm-hmm. What was your mother like?
Well, she was English. She was a little like myself, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. Tell me about the first time you saw the Indians.
when we come to Oklahoma,
What'd you think about them?
we was scared of them at first, but they got where they didn't bother us, you know. They would go through, great crowds of them, camp right close to home, but they never bothered us.
What kind of Indians were they?
Oh, there were all kinds of guests, Comanches, Chickasaws.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me some more about the wagon trip to Oklahoma? What time would you start off in the morning?
Well, my father was never in a hurry. See, he had these two cows to furnish his milk, and he never got in a hurry. I don't know, it was about 8, 9 o'clock we'd start.
Mm-hmm.
Most I can remember is we all had a good time.
What kind of food did your mother fix on the trip?
Oh, she had apple butter. She made before we left Nebraska, and she cooked with a skeleton lid, and you seen them or heard of them,
Mm-hmm.
and cooked for all of us.
Mm-hmm. How many were on the trip?
Well, just our family.
How many in your family?
9,
9?
11 with father and mother,
Mm-hmm.
8 children.
Did you all come down on the trip? Mm-hmm. So did you sleep in the tent every night? You did. Mm-hmm. Who slept in the wagon? Anyone?
No one slept in the wagon.
Mm-hmm. Who's the most famous person you've met? Who's the most famous person you've met?
Most what?
Famous person. Like, have you ever met a president?
No, I never
Yeah.
met the.
Ever meet the governor?
No, didn't know there was a governor.
Mm-hmm. How long have you lived up here in Grove?
Well, not very long. I have a home in Oklahoma City, and was at home, and our daughter, little daughter, she kept wanting to stay with me and leave her home, so I moved up here with Howard, and he's given me a wonderful home.
Good. Mm-hmm.
I told him, he sat by the commode and drank his coffee while I drank mine.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember the Depression of 1907?
Well, I tell you, it was depression with people them days all the time. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
there was depression, because it was depression all the time.
Can you tell me some of the home remedies that you and your mother used, medicines that you would make at home?
No, I don't
What would you do for a cough when you were?
do it.
What would your mother do for a cough? What kind of medicine would she give you?
Well, just any kind of a cough syrup, you know.
Mm-hmm. Did she ever make her own cough syrup?
No,
Mm-hmm.
buy it in bottles.
Mm-hmm. What about the Depression of the 1930s?
I don't hardly remember the depression.
Yeah.
Because it was depression all the time.
Yeah.
People didn't have money and they didn't had such little of everything.
Mm-hmm. What about the dust storms?
Oh, they was bad.
Can you describe a dust storm?
Well, I know they used to be dirt on the tables. We couldn't hardly eat till the wind would go down and it was cleaned off. And it blowed wheat out by the roots. It was bad.
How many acres of wheat did you have planted?
My father had about, well, he had 160 acres, had about half of it in wheat.
Mm-hmm. Well, did you do any work for the war effort in World War One?
I never did work out.
Yeah. Did many boys around Lockridge go to the war?
Hmm?
Did many boys from Lockridge go to the war? No.
They were too young then.
What do you remember about Nebraska?
About Nebraska,
Mm-hmm.
well, I remember the big snowstorms we'd have. Father had a sled made on a wagon bed, for us kids to ride in. And well, I had a good father.
Mm-hmm. How many children do you have?
Brothers and sisters.
No, how many children do you
Did
have?
I have
Mhm.
four?
4.
Four. Howard and 2 girls. One girl passed away.
Mm-hmm. Well, ma'am, I think we have a good interview.
Hmm?
We have a good interview.
You have?
Yes, ma'am. I want to thank you for answering the questions.
Well, if I'd have been thinking, I might have known more.
Oh, I was going to ask you about fording the rivers in the wagon coming to Oklahoma.
Well, we had to ford it. There wasn't a bridge or nothing.
Ever have any trouble crossing the rivers?
No. My father wouldn't drive in. He seems it was safe to go across.
How would he see that it was safe?
Huh?
How would he check to see if the river was safe?
It'd either be up or down, you know. When it would go down, then he could go across.
Would he walk out into the river to see if it was safe?
Yeah, his.
How did your father locate a homestead?
Well, I don't know. There was 4 of them come from Nebraska, and they all homesteaded places pretty close together.
What were the other guys' names?
One of them was Pat O'Brien, and Mike Murphy, Lewis Hoover,
And your father? Is that
and
4?
my father.
Well, again, I want to thank you for helping us.
Well,
I've enjoyed this.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Wish I could have thought up a little more.
Oh, you did pretty good. What do you remember any specific incidents about your childhood that you remember?
No. Well, I do remember. See that finger?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I and a brother was playing at a stump on a tree, and my brother cut it off. And Mother made a sack and put flour in it for me to carry my finger in till it quit bleeding. We didn't have no doctor. And this piece of finger now flew in another brother's hand that was standing on up on the tree. And we buried it, or they did, had a funeral for it, and planted a evergreen. Of course, they ain't there now,
Mm-hmm.
but that brother is gone.
He is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My people are all gone but one sister
Mm-hmm. Where does she live?
at Lawton.
Mm-hmm.
She's 82.
She is. Mm.
I guess that's about all I know.
Did your mother make your clothes?
Every stitch of it, washed and ironed.
How did your mother make starch?
Make starch, boil water and flour together, but you had to boil it a long time or it would stick, you know.
Did your mother make soap?
Yeah.
Did you help her?
Oh, no.
Do you remember how she made soap?
No. Only to put the grease, water in a kettle and boil it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't but one thing, and that is a song my father sang to us little children who were smaller, you know, to the smaller children. There was 3 younger than me and 4, 5 older. And he used to sing this song, and I remember it. It says, no home, no home, plead the orphan girl as she stood at the rich man's door, as she trembling stood on the marble step and leaned against polished wall. My father, alas, I never saw, and the tears begin to fall. My mother, she sleeps in her newly made grave. 'Tis an orphan that begs tonight. The night was dark and the snow fell fast, and the rich man shut his door. With a frown on his face, he scornfully said, no room, no bread for the poor. The night was dark and the snow fell fast. The rich man's The night was dark and the snow fell fast. The rich man shut his door. With a frown on his face, he scornfully said, no home, no bread for the poor. Then I must die, as she sank to the floor. No shoes to cover her feet, with an old tattered dress all covered with snow. Yes, covered with snow and sleet. The rich man lie on his velvet cot and dream of his silver and gold, while the poor little girl on her bed of snow, as she murmurs, so cold, so cold. The rich man lie on his velvet cot and dreams of his silver and gold, while the poor little girl on her bed of snow, as she murmured, so cold, so cold. When daylight dawned on the poor little girl, as she lay at the rich man's door, but her soul had a home in heaven above, where there's room and bread for the poor. He used to sing that to the little babies, you know, that was younger than me.
Yeah.
I learned it.
Mhm. Where did he learn the song?
Huh?
Where'd your father learn the song?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
I didn't do a very good job of singing.
You did very good.